Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Bro today. Appreciate you tuning in. And you are watching the Off the Wall Nerds podcast. So, this Mongoose Gaming Bro is the official home for Off the Wall Nerds. And again, appreciate you tuning in. So, we're talking three topics here. For those of you just joining and for those of you new subscribers and haven't seen the podcast before, we usually take about 2 to 4 topics, discuss them on our podcast, upload them via my YouTube channel, and of course, other platforms. But in the meantime, right now, it's just YouTube. My co-host and co-founder Justin has been out for a while, so he's doing fine. But I'm hoping to have him back at some point. He has been streaming again, kind of getting back on the horse. But in the meantime, it's just me doing the podcast. So here we are. So as you guys see, we are going to be talking about 3 topics here. More specifically, with Pokemon Go, will be the past Unova Tour. So for those of you who play Pokemon Go, hope you had fun. We'll discuss that here actually first. We'll go kind of in order here, then discuss War of the Rohirrim, and then Cobra Kai, Season 6, Part 3, and discuss kind of the show as a whole. So I'm actually going to not breeze through Pokemon Go and War of the Rohirrim because Cobra Kai absolutely blew me away. It is one of my top 5 favorite shows now of all time. Up there with Star Trek, up there with Lucifer and a couple others. So I'm going to be geeking out about Cobra Kai. But again, guys, thank you for tuning in. The way the podcast works for newcomers, we talk about the topics. I give my own takes. I appreciate engagement in the comments. Let me know your thoughts, what you want me to talk about in the next podcast. I'm actually on pace to upload 1 podcast a month. Given my schedule, 1 a month is more feasible for me. I'd love to do one once a week, but at the same time, kind of looking at how I upload on my channel, it's just feasible for me to do once a month. 12 episodes. It'll be 11 episodes this year is the goal. Maybe 12, like do a season finale in a year and review separate videos. But in the meantime, right now we're on track for 1 a month. So we're gonna go here now with Pokemon Go. Is the mobile game produced and made by Niantic in collaboration with the Pokemon Company. Mobile game on iPhones and Androids and stuff like that. So it's a fun game. I've been a day 1 player since it launched in July of 2016. I have literally, not joking, missed a day of play, except when I got banned for spoofing. But that's beside the point. But we just recently had the Unova Tour this past weekend, March 1st and 2nd. They had a pretty good week leading up to it, changing of raids, new legendary bosses, of course, all from the Unova region of Pokemon, from Pokemon Black White series, Black and White 2, and it was a fun event overall. Now, given that they increased the amount of remote raids, made it unlimited over the weekend, that's really what got my attention. Because if you watch my channel, I do all kinds of crazy raid videos. I do almost every single raid that has been known to come in the game. Especially over the last couple of years, I've really upped it to where I can solo. I want to go back and look. I want to say half. I may be wrong. I'm going to actually go back now and check, see how many raids I've soloed versus how many I've duoed. But that was it for me. And plus, a lot of the raid bosses were really good. Lander's Therian Form, Zekrom, Reshiram, Kyurem Fused. So there were a lot of good raid bosses to have. A lot of these have an impact in the game, in the meta, for PvP, for raids. So this was a really good week for raids. Now, as far as the tour is concerned, Pokemon has been doing these tour events that started with Kanto, Johto, and so on. We're on the 5th one now. And Kanto and Johto were by far and away the best events Pokemon Go has ever made for the game. They've ever hosted and never done. Now, they were COVID events. Now, I know Kanto Tour was planned before COVID, so COVID really changed the structure of how that worked, but they made it work and made it a lot of fun. I'm not going to lie, Kanto Tour, by far and away my favorite event I've ever played. Very, very few gripes. I wouldn't call them gripes. I was like, I wish they would bring back the clones for that one, but that's a discussion for another time. But the tour events are basically the second biggest event of the year behind GoFest. And then, of course, like Halloween and the holiday event. So Unova Tour this year, the reason why I want to talk about it is because it was lame. I can't put it another way. Now, if you had fun with the event, by all means, I'm glad you had fun. I really, really am. This is more my take. But again, I know hundreds of thousands of trainers. I have talked to some in Discord. I have talked with them in person. Even my friends play. And well, again, I had fun with the raids, but don't get me wrong, I did almost 200 raids. The gameplay overall wasn't that satisfying. There were no global catch challenges or global raid challenges. There were no collection challenges. There were no like anything that the previous tours had, catch, raid, all these global challenges that came with the tours previously, nothing of that was in the Unova tour. Not even like when they did the Unova tour in person in LA, like when they've done previously, like okay, there's the in-person raid, but the in-person events, but if you can't make it, they do a global challenge which unlocks a bonus. Nothing like that. Yes, I did incorrectly comment on a post about there was no the habitats didn't rotate. This and that. The habitats did rotate. I did not pay attention to the infographic at first, but at the same time, that kind of speaks to how poor the event was because I didn't catch that the habitats were rotating. There was no change in music, really. I mean, I know the music was different, but it definitely wasn't something to write home about. Again, like with Kanto, Johto, Hoenn tours, even Sinnoh tour was done better. But if you look at the events progressively, from YouTube people like myself, small timer channels like me, or even big time channels like if you look at when Mystic did Kanto tour to when Mystic did Unova tour, you will see that while he's still excited and one of the best voices in Pokemon Go, Kanto Tour, Johto Tour are really there. You see the events in terms of bonuses and challenges and all that really dip. That starting with Hoenn, Sinnoh, and now Unova. There is a considerable dip there. Um, but like I said, there were no challenges. It didn't make it extremely fun. Now, of course, there were some good boxes in the store. You can get items, stock up on stuff, make sure you had stuff you needed, Pokeballs, raid passes, incubators, all that. Um, but hold on, you may hear noise in my water bottle opening. There we go. Okay. But I had a lot of fun because of the raids. One thing the game thrives on is raiding. So when they released Black and White Kyurem, another gripe. I know this is complaining. I had a little bit of fun. I got to play with my best friends. I got to play with my kiddo. I did play both days, raided both days. But again, the thing that was at the tours past is that there was different events each day. And one day was focused on one thing, one day was focused on the other. Again, the challenges. Well, with Unova, Black and White Kyurem came out. It's like, okay, those are top tier counters in the game. PvP raids, you need these two, at least one of each, one black and one white. You need one of each. But it was very, very little energy per raid. Now with normal primal and mega evolution raids, like you can get up to like 200 energy, 250 energy per raid if you did it fast enough. It's based on time. With these ones, the max energy I saw anybody get was 110. So at minimum, you had to do 10 raids just to get enough energy for one fusion. So you had to do, let me make sure I'm doing my math right here. Oh, wait, hold on. Times 9. Yeah, you had to do a minimum of 10 raids for enough energy for one fusion. You could not do 10 raids in an hour in the hour time. Well, okay, yeah, you probably could. I take that back. But it would be difficult to do those 10 raids in 1 hour before the switchover. So some people like me, where I can sit there and have remote invites from anywhere. Like, because everybody knows, watch my channel, I'm friends with a few of them. They'll send me raids like that, like instantly, and I can just start raiding. Literally, I can do, with how easy these bosses were, I could have done over 10 an hour. But there are people who would like to walk around and enjoy the game. By all means, that's great. But you don't get that many raids. In Old Town is one of the premier spots in Albuquerque. You can get a lot of raids done, but you're looking at maybe 5. Now, I will give Niantic credit for rotating the raids every half hour. So you end on your 4th raid, the raid disappears. Wait there, no joke, 3-4 minutes, raid respawns. But since there were other raids going on, you weren't guaranteed that Kyurem would pop back up. Very high chance, but I did experience that when I was out with my son. Me and him walked around for a couple hours before we met up with Leia and our friends. And yeah, we stood up on one black Kyurem, did it. It switched, and it was a shadow raid. It's like, okay. So we had to walk not that it was bad, but walk 10 minutes to the next raid. So it was that kind of like, eh. So I was remote raiding hardcore, even outside walking around playing. Now, the catching and all that wasn't fantastic. I caught over 600 Pokemon, and this leads to my next gripe: 600 catches. A combination. I'm not joking. I had 5,300 Ultra Balls. Used about 300 of them. I used Great Balls because I was using my Go Plus. Not a single shiny. And apparently, I wasn't the only one. But I caught over 600 Pokemon, not a single shiny. Now, I did get shiny Kyurem. I got, I want to say like 6 or 7 from the raids. But that's 6 or 7 shinies out of 200. I guess it's not that bad odds. But if we're gonna go off wild shinies, off research encounter shinies, no shinies. I got none. And I know a lot of people who actually got one, maybe two, over 2 days. There are people out there I know who caught as many Pokemon as I did. Some caught fewer, like 100 or 200. I do know somebody who caught over 1,000, but they didn't get shinies either. And the shiny rates are absolutely abysmal. One driving thing in the game is you want shinies. Great. I want shinies are great and all. Anybody who knows me, yes, I know I transfer them, but I will keep them in case somebody wants to trade for it. Like if I caught, I don't know, what did we have in Unova? A shiny Timber. If somebody didn't have a Timber and I caught a shiny, there you go. I know Timber had a community day, but I get it. People miss certain Pokemon, but I didn't get anything, man. I didn't get a single shiny outside of raids, and the shiny Kyurem were eh. I got the catch backgrounds, eh. um, but I just focused on getting the energy for the raids, so I was very very disappointed I didn't get any shinies. And it is the first, and I'm not kidding. Again, when I said I was a day one player, never missed a day. This is the first event that I've played, and this game will be 9 years old in July. In 9 years of playing this game, I've only missed an event shiny, which means I'm talking about Community Day, Go Fest, Tour, those events, where shinies are boosted, quote unquote. This is the first event I've ever played that I missed a shiny. There was one other event. Second event I missed shiny. The first event I missed where I didn't get the event shiny was the first Mareep Com Day. I was in Pokemon Go jail for 30 days for breaking the TOS. I own that mistake. I have not broken the TOS since, but it is the first event shiny I've missed was Shiny Mareep. The second one now is no shiny in Unova Tour. So first event miss was obviously my own doing, was my fault. I screwed up. I didn't screw up. I knew what I was doing. But playing the game this past weekend, no shinies. It is again. So I will say, playing legitimately is the first event I got zero shinies. And I will say this to toot my own horn, being one of the top players in the world, gotten a shiny. I should have gotten at least one shiny. I probably would have been bitching more if I got one shiny, but I didn't get any shinies. So that's just where we're standing on that one. And again, back to the whole no collection challenges, no global challenges, no, like just raid challenges in general too. Like there would be we did have the raid challenges. I take that back. I'm sorry. I'll backtrack a little bit. We did have raid challenges. Do one raid and up to 11 raids. It was candies or encountering the wild Pokemon from wild legendaries from Unova. So like Terrakion, Genesect, and all that. I'll give that. So that was the week leading up to Unova Tour. But there's still like no global do 20 million raids, catch 500 million Pokemon, nothing like that. Which I'll made the game more fun. It gave it a purpose. So that's kind of my gripe there. Please, guys, I'm telling you, let me know in the comments what you think. How did you do during Unova Tour? In the meantime, you guys are watching. I watch my raid videos. Actually, I've got almost all the raid videos. I should have all the raid videos uploaded by now of my solos and duos of all of the raid bosses from the past week. it was a lot of rating because I had to write. I did fish around for their move sets, so I was making sure I did them correctly. Latios Ultimate did his share, so check out his channel. But my creme de la creme is the Landorus Therian solo. I was hoping that video would take off. I'm still hoping it does. That I may actually pay to like advertise that video because I'm really, really proud of that one. The Giratina solo, the Moltres solo, and this one are like my top three. And right now, Giratina and Moltres took off. So I'm hoping Landers does too. But that's my take on the Unova Tour. I know there's a lot more to break down, a lot more to talk about. But that was just my impression. Just it wasn't a fun event. It definitely, compared to the last 4 Pokemon Go tours, this was the worst one so far. And I think what made it worse, I'll continue on, but I think what made it the worst one is that every Pokemon in Unova has been out, literally been out and been available shiny since about, I'm not joking, over 2 years now, almost 2 years. Because I've had the Unova decks completely full for at minimum, no joke, minimum a year. And I pride myself on filling the Pokedex. So Unova Tour has been out. All 156 have been out from Unova region for over a year, almost 2 years. It's like it's literally, I'm not joking. At minimum 12 months, at max about 2 years. So all the Pokemon were released. Unlike Kanto Tour, I get was a little different. It was the first one. Yeah, all Pokemon were released then. I think Johto was holding on to Smeargle. Hoenn was definitely holding on to a couple. Um, Sinnoh still hasn't. They missed Arceus badly. They missed Manaphy and Phenom. I don't understand the hesitation there. You can release those. There's a way to do it. If you figured out Smeargle and you figured out Zorua and this and that, how to release them properly, you could have released Arceus, Manaphy, and Phenom already. So Niantic, come on, dude. Not that they're being sold to $4 billion to a Saudi company anyway, but that's neither here nor there. So again, my taking you over tour. Hope you guys did have fun. I know I was griping, I know I was complaining, but I did have fun playing with the family. I did have fun with the raids. So it wasn't a total letdown. I did, again, a lot of raids. But hope you guys had fun. Please let me know in the comments how you did for Unova Tour, how much you liked it. And yeah, continue playing the game. Pokemon Go Fest details are coming out for in-person events from Osaka, Jersey City, and I forget where the European city is, but I know they're doing it in a city in Europe. So Volcanion will be released. So I'm thinking Go Fest will be more fun. Hopefully there's more global involvement. So we'll see. So there's my take, guys. Again, let me know in the comments, and we're gonna move on. If you want to cut off here to Lord of the Rings: War of the Rohirrim. This was actually a very fun movie, and I say fun because honestly, it's actually dreary and very dramatically serious. But I enjoyed it because A, it's anime. Anime is usually really, really good. B, it's long. Lord of the Rings has a thing for long movies. And C, it was a really good. It was really good, like I'll call it a chapter in the Lord of the Rings Hobbit universe, because as much as the understanding, as much as the hype goes for Rings of Power and Amazon, the Hobbit trilogy and Lord of the Rings trilogy with Peter Jackson, that's the Tolkien verse. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of lore, a lot of story, a lot of exposition that goes into these movies, all really well done. Lord of the Rings trilogy is the perfect, most best. I said that so incredibly. The Lord of the Rings trilogy is the best trilogy and series of movies ever put to screen. There's no argument with that. I'm sorry. Sorry, Star Wars. But War of the Rohirrim was actually done really well. I liked the protagonist, Hera. And I love Brian Cox, and he got to play Helmhammerhand. But it was really good to see them break out the lore of with humans having their own war. This of course Mountain Doom and with Mordor and Isengard and all of them are brought up, but this was way before the Ring. It's set 200 years prior to even the Hobbit. So basically, Rohan calls it's a whole call the council of members of that, and it's all about taking Hera's hand in marriage, Hammerhand's daughter, and she's very much like, no, I don't want to get married. So of course he's like, okay, she doesn't want to get married, but this sets off this whole thing where Freka, who is on this council, then is like, no, we're fighting for this, and in true barbarian fashion, they fight. But Helm kills him, like unintentionally kills him because he punches him so hard he killed him. Stop me if you've heard that before, but that's kind of where that's kind of like not the cold open, but that's where it starts. It's just that's because of that. It sets off Freka's son Wolf, who grew up with Hera and of course had a crush on her. You can see that plainly. Sends him in a hellspin where he then of course basically declares a war on Helmhammerhand and takes on Edoras, and then of course chases them to not called Helm's Deep yet, but chases them to the keep. And it's good because it does have a decent amount of conflict, and the story I think is really well done. And I do love that when they start the movie, Miranda Otto, who played wow, who played Eowyn in The Lord of the Rings and Two Towers and Return of the King, she narrates it and gives the exposition. And it's really cool to have an OG back like her. And she of course starts off with how we'll never hear about Hera. There'll be no songs or tales of her, and it tells the whole story. But we go into the story, of course, with Edoras being attacked, but Hera gets the city evacuated in time, and then distracts Wolf and his army so they can get away. They get to the keep, and of course, Hammerhand is injured, and they retreat back in, and it is again teased as an impenetrable fortress. It is. So while they're basically regrouping, Hammerhand recovers, and all of a sudden, while Hera's laying with him, um, she wakes up and he's gone. So now they're looking for Helm, and she's out there, and all of a sudden, this this thing with the Wolf's army now starts. You hear people disappear, they're getting killed. Hammerhand goes on this tear, literally just going out in the middle of the night, cloaked, and just killing Wolf's army basically. And then now all of a sudden the tales start. They're too scared to work. They're too terrified, and Wolf is just like doesn't care. Wolf is not the greatest commander. He rules strictly by fear, nothing else. But um, but then Hera finally sneaks out and tries to find Helm, and then gets caught by a couple of orcs who are voiced by Billy and Dominic, who played Merry and Pippin in Lord of the Rings. So it's cool to see them or hear them anyway. But they play a couple of the orcs. Hera gets in a little fight. Well, I don't say fight. Gets basically trapped. But then Hammerhand comes out of nowhere, dives, kills them all, and yeah, like he seems kind of in a daze, but he kind of explains like what happened. She's like, okay, and then unfortunately he dies. He ends up freezing to death. Go figure. Like he goes and takes on these orcs, punches off the horn, and kills this one that's twice his size. But no, Mother Nature takes no prisoners. Um, but I can appreciate that it was a good movie. Hera takes care of business, and as she's about to fight Wolf, this will be known as Helm's Deep. So there we go. We got the name. Um, I will say this. I say this with respect to the material, but also at the same time, is very much typical final battle type stuff. But Hera, of course, comes out on top, and we get, of course, a little exposition at the end of the movie because now she's with her. Hera is a shield maiden, number one. Number two, I believe she's also the last shield maiden. Despite I think Eowyn being one later on in Two Towers, but she's also the last shield maiden. Um, but as she does her duty and all that, and she's her own thing. She should have been queen, and they all tell her that. But of course, it goes on to have someone else crowned king, and tells her there'll always be a place for you here. So, but then of course we get a fun return from the dead cameo, um, as and this is where you can actually start predicting. It's the last 5-10 minutes of the movie being kind of predicted. It's all I forgot what they called him, but anyway, Sauron. They say he's from Isengard, but then the voice goes. I believe he says something along those. I am here at your service, my king, or something along that effect. But the line he says is literally Christopher Lee's voice. They didn't recast it, so Christopher Lee as Sauron lives on. It was a single line, and I believe it was a recorded line he said previously because it didn't. I'm not saying they couldn't have done it in editing, but it didn't seem like they pieced words together because of the inflection of the voice. So Christopher Lee, they just took a line he recorded and used that for this movie. Great. It was cool. It was cool to hear Christopher Lee's voice one more time as Sauron the White. The only man, the Lord of the Rings production, who met and talked with Tolkien. But and then of course, as Hera begins her journey, she talks about going on to see a wizard of her own, and I'm like, immediately that's Gandalf. She goes, in the common tongue, he's called Gandalf. I'm like, there it is. So she goes out to meet Gandalf. Sauron makes his presence known, and I want to say that's almost when he starts taking over. Because while Theoden isn't born yet, you can tell that that's where this is going. Theoden, of course, come around and Saruman just puts his footprint in Eros and starts taking over Rohan. But for Lord of the Rings fans, I liked it. Leia did like it. Her being a Lord of the Rings fan, um, and again, her she's like die hard into it. I like it. So is for me, as perspective of someone who tried reading the books but couldn't, but watched the movies and all that. It was a good chapter to add. It wasn't bad by any stretch of the imagination. Um, but let me know what you guys think in the comments. For those of you Lord of the Rings fans, let me know what you thought of it. I personally liked Helm Hammerhand being portrayed by Brian Cox. That was a lot of fun. Fun little. If you Google it, there's a fun story. He explains about how he's been wanting to be in Lord of the Rings, since his early days as an actor, and he finally got that to play the legendary Hammerhand himself. Um, but yeah, so again, guys, let me know what you think in the comments. Did you like War of the Rohirrim? Did you dislike it? By all means, I will engage in the comments, have some discussions with you guys. Let me know. And we're gonna close out with again, as I mentioned, one of my favorite shows of all time now, Cobra Kai, Never Dies. So I have reviewed Cobra Kai several times. I talked about my first episode of the year, my first episode of the season, my season premiere was talking about just the trailer. And so season 6, part 3 was perfection. Lord of the Rings, Return of the King was the perfect ending of a trilogy ever. Cobra Kai, season 6, part 3 was the perfect ending for this show, period. I would say for the franchise, but the franchise is going to continue on with Karate Kid Legends, with Jackie Chan and Ralph Macchio reprising their roles from their respective movies and their respective franchises. Jackie Chan was reprising his role as Mr. Han. Ralph Macchio is reprising his role as Daniel LaRusso. So we're going to see that. I take a drink of water there. But I I can't gush enough about this. So I talked about season 6, part 2. I'm gonna try to limit this to season 6, part 3. Kreese gets his redemption. It was a redemption story I didn't know we needed because we see him back in Korea. They complete the ritual for Kwang, and Kim tells him that he's no longer needed there. Now she's not doing it maliciously. She's saying you need to go be the person in the sense that you've always wanted to be, and she basically cuts him loose, like saying you're not needed here any longer. You go do what you need to do. She did what she needed to do. She took on her grandfather, and yeah, so she is now Cobra Kai. She is the Lady Snake Cobra Kai. She took care of her business. It was a great end for her as well. More on that actually coming in a bit. But it was just absolutely beautiful to see this to see it develop, and then leading up to it all coming back to where it all started. That they fight that they Terry Silver tries to portray being the good guy. They at least left Terry to be the bad guy because Terry convinces Johnny and then convinces Johnny to talk to Daniel about bringing back the Saikai Taikai and then having it come to the All Valley. We find out that Terry Silver is sick. He's got some sort of cancer and that he's not going to live. So that's his whole thing. And his thing is legacy. So that's where he convinces him, but then after he talks to Johnny and talks to Daniel, I get one of my favorite moments from the Johnny Daniel relationship where Johnny sits there and he goes, "You've always had me trust you, and I know you trust me." And they sit there on the couch, and Johnny tells him, he goes, "We want this, the kids want this," but he goes, "I trust you. So if you say it ends here and now," he's like, "I will respect that. I will trust you with the right to." And this is what Johnny's character is basically saying. It's like, "I trust you, and this will be the end of it." He goes, "That's it." He goes, "Keep my job with you and this and that." But it's just Johnny telling Daniel, "I understand if you don't want to do it," and he's basically "I will not hold it against you." And so the kids get wind of it, and Johnny and Daniel have that last little bit of eye contact, and Daniel's like, "We'll do it." Because they did need all of the senseis unanimously to agree to bring it back. And Daniel was the holdout, and Daniel said yes. And we all knew it was going to be yes, but it was kind of good to sit there because while we watch the trailer, know what's going on, sometimes the trailers always spoil everything. Maybe not the ending and stuff, but I actually have this thing where somehow mentally I watched the trailer I'll watch the trailer 100 times, not joking. When I'm sitting and actually watching the movie or the show, I forget about the trailer. I'm like, oh, I don't remember that at all. So I will forget. So I don't technically spoil it for myself. I forget. But um, so they agree to bring it back. They get the All Valley set up, the All Valley, the arena, this and that. It was so cool to watch. Got his blue mats and stuff like that. But of course, the villains are Iron Dragon, and our heroes are Miyagi-Do, and it goes through a lot. Where Robbie is taking on, um, oh my god, Kovacevic. Is his last name Kovacevic? Oh my god, I can't believe I forgot his first name. Um, but that Robbie takes, so that's the fight. Robbie takes him on and gets severely injured in some cheap shots. It's because Sensei Wolf is telling him, take him out. And Silver's right there behind him. Do what you have to, take him out. And Robbie gets hurt. And Miguel, that's where the moment we do see from the trailer, Miguel runs on the mat, ready to absolutely murder Kovacevic. Like, he's ready to take him down. But, so Robbie gets severely injured. And we get another tender moment, and I'm not kidding. There was me and Leia and I binged the show the day it came out. We binged it before I went to work, and so there was not every episode. Is episode 3, 4, and 5 of part 3 had us in tears every single fucking time. Robbie and Johnny, not that they didn't already reconcile, but Robbie's sitting there and knowing he wasn't going to win, but just sitting there saying that karate gave him his friends, it gave him his life back, it gave him his dad. I'm like, fuck, man. And then Zabka, good God, William Zabka, just absolutely powerhouse delivering this performance. Like, come on, man deserves an Emmy for Christ's sake for this movie, for this show. But Zabka bringing it, and they both telling them they love each other, embrace each other, and it was just really, really awesome and great to see that come full circle. And of course, Johnny is expecting his kid with Carmen, and so Robbie and Miguel are gonna be the big brothers. And then Johnny doing what he wanted to do. He got this whole big ass proposal thing down, and I will say shades of How I Met Your Mother. While Barney didn't do it, I mean, if we're on, I'll talk about the whole Barney thing in a bit. But he wanted to propose to her all great, but he couldn't because she ended up, going to the hospital to have the baby. And he's like, I know you didn't want to do this, but he just asked her to marry him. And of course, now Carmen and Johnny are going to get married and have this great life. But I digress. So Johnny and Robbie have that moment, and Sam withdraws from her fight against, not Raina. Raina's the name of the actress. Zara. She withdraws from the fight against Zara. And then we get one of the most epic. Okay, hold on. I need to rewind. Kreese begins his redemption tour. I know people are gonna hit me. Kreese begins his redemption tour. He goes to Tori, and I will give Kreese credit and the writers credit. Kreese is not looking for forgiveness. He just goes to Tori, tells her he's sorry, does not say I need your forgiveness. He just goes, I'm sorry. I hope the best for you, and what he can do for her. She says no, and then he's like, I understand, and he starts walking away. And I will give Martin Cove credit for that because I know he had input on it, but Kreese did not ask for forgiveness at any point. It was just him taking Kim's advice and changing for the better and just go do this and then walk away. That's all he was doing. So he does help Tori because Cobra Kai is technically still in the tournament. But we have a fun moment where, that Miguel and Robbie are talking and then the whole family comes together. So they announced that Sam withdraws from the fight. Back to this. That Miyagi-Do is basically withdrawing. Sam withdraws from the fight against Zara. And they're all sitting like, smiling. And we got this. We won this and that. And he goes on. He goes, Cobra Kai has not named a replacement for their fallen captain. Therefore, Iron Dragon will be our champions. But then he goes, however, Cobra Kai has named a replacement. And I dropped. I was like, fucking what? And he goes, joining Tori Nichols. And he goes on to say, Miguel Diaz, I lost my shit. I'm in my goddamn apartment. Just me and Leia. And we're losing our shit like little fucking nerds that we are. that not only is it ACDC back in black, it's fucking Miguel Diaz back in his OG Cobra Kai gi we saw in season one. Who's just a scrawny little kid walking out, and then he goes on to say, coached by former two-time all that. He didn't even finish. I lost my shit. Johnny walking back out in his Cobra Kai gi, and they're like, "What the fuck?" Everybody's like, "What the fuck? What is going on?" And Sensei was like, "How is this possible?" And Terry remembers and realizes that because they are former Cobra Kai, they are allowed to fight for the dojo because they are eligible replacements. So, joining Tori, we get Miguel and Tori and Johnny back in the Cobra Kai gi, and Daniel giving his seal of approval that Johnny walks out there, and holy shit, like, oh man, my head was blown. And of course, Daniel and Terry end up meeting in the concession area, and when Daniel leans in, he goes, "Don't you know?" He goes, "Cobra Kai never dies." I chills, absolutely fucking, and just the look on Terry's face, he knew he was done. He knew they were done, and it's just absolutely asininely crazy. And then you see Tori with her smile of forgiveness to Kreese that he gave one last bow. And before that, this I know it sounds like aggression, but before that, him and Johnny have their moment. What whole led to this whole Cobra Kai thing is because Kreese's Cobra Kai still technically with the tournament, we get the second huge tearjerker that Kreese and Johnny, that Kreese was trying to talk Johnny and left him, but then Johnny comes and confronts him, and he basically told him to fuck off. But then he sits there, starts crying, and goes, "I loved you, man." It's like, oh fuck. I'm not kidding. I was tearing up when he said that. He's like, "I wanted your approval. I wanted you to love me. I wanted to be the best for you." He's like, "I would have killed for you." And Kreese knowing this, like Martin Cove delivering the powerhouse. This was a masterclass in one of these master classes in reconciliation. He goes to touch Johnny on the shoulder. Johnny shakes him off, but then it's like he just says, "I'm sorry," and then they embrace. And it's like, fuck, man. It was so good. I can't think of a better word. It was so good. But they reconcile, and that's where Kreese gives Johnny Cobra Kai back. That's how they ran to the tournament back, because Kreese is still technically the sensei entered in and all that. So, paperwork happened, whatever. But that's where Cobra Kai came back in, and it was really good. Leia was on the side of like, we didn't need the redemption story for Kreese, like we didn't, but we got it. And his only first, but his last good deed was just giving Cobra Kai back. You see Tori give him that smile. He bows one last time, and that's it. Because Kreese goes on to confront Silver on his boat, where Silver's doing the whole trying this bullshit, like, do what you need to do to make sure we win this tournament type thing on the phone. Like, okay. And of course, sends his goon, Guzman, after and all that to send a message. But then all of a sudden you hear a thud, and you're like, what the hell? So Silver's like, okay, getting ready. And it's Kreese, and it's like, oh man, right there when Kreese walked out, you knew it was do or die, right then and there. Kreese and Silver fight. It was a great fight. It was. I don't want to say I knew it was coming. I didn't think it would happen. I just thought that would be it. But no, the Kreese and Silver fight, and end up spilling some gas. Kreese ends up lighting the gas on fire, and you hear the "no mercy." Well, I know Terry says no. Terry says no. Kreese says no mercy, but you get no mercy, and the ship explodes, presumably killing them both. Now, when that ship explodes, going through the rest of the episodes, nobody knows Kreese and Silver are dead. So nobody knows what happened on the boat. So we go back to the karate tournament, and so we get Tori versus Zara first, and Zara starts getting in her head about Robbie, and Robbie's out there, and Tori's down a few points, but she has to get him back. But she goes over there and she knows what sets her off is that she's like, I know what you're gonna say, Robbie. I need to find this. And Robbie's like, no, I love you. Corny and cheesy, but it worked. But he tells her he loves her. She's like, what? And they kiss and embrace for a moment, and then he basically says, go kick her ass. And she goes out there and absolutely proceeds to obliterate Zara and knocked her teeth out, earning the nickname the Tooth Fairy. It was so fucking good. And Tori absolutely just decimates Zara. So Tori was the Seikai Taikai Girls Champion. And then we get the fight that we were hoping would happen. Didn't know how it would, but hoping would happen, see the first episode of season 6. And it's Miguel versus Kovacevic, and it was chef's kiss. Because Miguel went out there to absolutely obliterate Kovacevic. Now, while Johnny did tell him previously, they're sitting outside the same strip mall, the same store. He got this pizza, that slice of pizza from years prior. He told Miguel, honor what you've learned, but don't go out for revenge. And he's like, I understand. So Miguel's sister goes, I will do that. He goes, I will honor what I've learned. But Miguel went out there for revenge. He went out there to avenge Robbie because when he sits there all bound, he does his ice like as hard as he can. I knew that fight was up. There's no fucking way he was gonna beat Miguel. The fight goes on. It's great. Miguel ends the fight, and he's the boys' champion. Like it was a great fight. He takes his ass out, knocked him out, and it was like, oh my god! Like we were just sitting there, and then my head blew. If my head could pop, it would have popped. It would have popped for the third fucking time in 3 episodes. They come out and say, our boys and girls champions. And then he does the however. Like, what the fuck would you mean, however? They won. Because of the point differential between Iron Dragon and Cobra Kai and what Cobra Kai had to do to get up there, they only got enough points, even with the knockouts, they only got enough points to tie with the Iron Dragon. And then he says, we have a procedure for this. These senseis of the tying dojos will fight. And I'm like, what? I'm like, what? I'm like, one of my new favorite actors up and coming, Louis Tan. I loved him in Into the Badlands, Mortal Kombat, Wu Assassins. You have to check this guy. He's really, really awesome to watch. But Louis Tan is one of my favorite actors. I love that he's sensei, the evil sensei. But then when they say that the senseis of the tying dojos must fight for the title, I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? We're gonna see Johnny Lawrence fight one last time? Like, what? Oh my god, my head was popped. My head popped every 5 seconds. I'm not even kidding. I was like, I couldn't contain myself. I'm like, what? And so we get an 80s training montage. Oh, it was so perfect. Running in the streets of the crowd, training with Daniel. Daniel becomes his sensei. Like, Johnny asked him, like, I need you. And that was another moment between those two. It's like, holy fuck. So Daniel proceeds to train Johnny. Like, this is what we're going to do. And, they have their moments. They have their talk. And Johnny tells him, you're pretty good at this sensei shit. And Daniel was being arrogant to the whole I know, but he's like, Daniel's like, I try. He goes, I want to be. So the fight comes, and holy shit, I just can't. Kudos to William Zabka. Not a single time was a stunt actor used for his fight with Louis Tan. Zabka, almost in his 60s. Let me actually, here, I have my phone in front of me. I'm going to see how old he is, because I have to give credit where credit is due. Okay, so Zabka was 58 when he filmed season 6, part 3. He did his own, he was choreographed, but he did his own fight. He didn't use a stunt guy. If you go back and look at how they cut the video and all that, the cut is showing it is Zabka out there fighting. I'm not saying people at 60 years old can't move well. I see plenty of people, up there in age who can still move like this. Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. Keanu Reeves as John Wick. But But to see Zapka go out there at his age and stand toe to toe with Lewis Tan, who's literally half his age, and it was so amazing to see Zapka out there that it was Billy Zapka, a that it was not a stunt double. It was Bill, and it was so awesome to see him out there fighting. And you knew it was him because while you can, yes, I know Hollywood special effects, the way effects work and all that, but that was Zapka actually sweating. I'm sorry, I'm like, yeah, you could fake that, but I can tell there's between water sweat from makeup and real sweat, and that was real fucking sweat. And that's that's Willie Zabka breathing hard. But he's losing as I expected. Sensei Wolf is decimating him. He's in his head. He's beating him down physically, and credit to Lewis Tan for really portraying a jackass. But we get time because not only do we see Billy Zabka come out, Daniel fucking LaRusso is in the Cobra Kai gi. He is the sensei for Johnny Lawrence of Cobra Kai. Again, that was where my head popped the fourth or fifth. I don't know what number. My head popped again. Seeing Daniel LaRusso in Cobra Kai, and not just Daniel LaRusso, everybody supporting Johnny. Chosen is in Cobra Kai gi, and you're just like, what the hell? And so Daniel's his sensei. Daniel's wearing his Miyagi Do I think it's not called a bandana, what their culture calls it, but he's wearing that and the Cobra Kai gi. So Daniel found his balance. So Johnny is of course getting his ass whooped, and Chosen is telling him, Daniel-san, you must motivate him. You must tell him what he needs to do. So we get it. We fucking get it. He calls time, and he tells Johnny the first words out of his mouth, what dojo are you fighting for? And you see him like, what? And he's like, what dojo are you fighting for? Not even hesitation, Cobra Kai. And then he gets it. He does it. He fucking does it. He goes, fear does not exist in your dojo. Does it? He's all, no. He goes, defeat does not exist in your dojo. Does it? He's all, no. And he goes, and I sure as shit know pain doesn't exist either. And then he tells him, stop being a pussy and go kick his ass. And then when Johnny says, he goes, yes, sensei. It's like, fuck yeah. Like, holy shit. I wish I could have seen this in a theater with a bunch of other fans and jumping up and down in my fucking chair. Where he goes, yes, sensei. He tells Daniel fucking LaRusso, yes, sensei. And the second he did that, I was like, that fight's over. He's going to destroy Wolf. And he did. He absolutely obliterated Wolf. He won the fight. And I can't. Johnny Lawrence, this whole series was from beginning to end. When it started on YouTube, Netflix took it over and finished it. I don't throw the word perfect around a lot, but Back to the Future trilogy, perfect. Sonic trilogy, perfect. Lord of the Rings trilogy, perfect. I'll even go John Wick quadrilogy, perfect. The word does not get thrown around, especially for movies. Like I will say, perfect movies: Forrest Gump, Empire Strikes Back, Jurassic Park. I would consider those perfect movies. And trust me, there's a whole list I could write because it's not just those. Those are pop culture relevant. I could bring a whole list where I could say these movies are perfect. You couldn't really argue it. But this series was perfect. The first episode title was Degenerate. Season 6, episode 15, the last episode title was titled X Degenerate. When I saw that title, I knew it. I knew Johnny got his fucking redemption. And I'm sorry, but Johnny got his redemption from me personally at the end of season 1, where he took Miguel under his wing, and Johnny, through all his faults, was teaching Miguel to strike first, strike hard, but was still teaching him. You knew that while he said no mercy, he was telling Miguel, don't push it. So Johnny learned a little bit from his mistakes, maybe not from himself, but that how to teach. He knew what he was doing with Miguel. And when I saw the last episode was titled Next Degenerate, I'm like, that's it. Johnny, for me, there has been a degenerate since season 1, but it was chef's kiss perfect. Johnny gets the trophy and grabs LaRusso, and we get a callback where he goes, in Karate Kid, he goes, you're all right, LaRusso. LaRusso hands him the trophy. Goes, "You're all right, Lawrence." And damn, what the actual fuck? I, I just can't with this. It was I could gush about this all fucking day. Couple things I did miss talking about. Chosen finally heard back from Kumiko. She did not feel the same way he did, and your heart broke a little bit for Chosen. My heart broke a little bit for him. But at the end of the show, he goes to Korea and gets with Sensei Kim, and you see her face light up like it's never lit up in this show. So, she's been here since season 4, I think. I have to check back, but you've never seen her face light up like that until she saw Chosen, and you're just like, oh, I'm happy. I legitimately am happy for them. Sam, of course, finds out she's going to go to Japan for a year for school. Miguel chases her down, says, "I'm going with you," even though he got into Stanford. Robbie and Tori get their dream ending. They get signed to a sports contract to promote. I don't know if it's like a sports drink or whatever it was, but they get their contracts and they sign Tori for obvious reasons because she won. But then gives Robbie a contract. He's like, "I didn't win." She goes, "That's not the point." So she hands him the contract. She goes, "We want you both." And does all have your lawyers look at this, call me, sign these, we'll get to work. And they get their happy ending. Johnny and Carmen get their house, and there is peace in the valley. There is peace in the valley. Johnny goes from all valley champion to degenerate to now Saikai Taikai world champion, and I'll say 2 times. Once he won as a sensei, and then he won as a champion, so he won twice. And this all brings back, and I can't find. I wish I could ask the producers, the creators of the show, where they got the inspiration for the series, because I'm not saying you can't come up with something creatively on your own. I'm really not. John Wick, okay, on its own. Jurassic Park was the book, but I'll stop using Jurassic Park. I'm sorry, but you can. These producers, these artists, bam. Oh, I got an idea. Write it out. Bam. There you go. But there's always inspiration from something. And I want to ask the producers, did they get inspiration from How I Met Your Mother? If you've seen the show How I Met Your Mother, you are familiar with Barney Stinson. Neil Patrick Harris's character, Barney Stinson, is a diehard Karate Kid fan in that he believes Johnny Lawrence is the hero of the story. So, when we get to, I believe, season 8, I think it's season 8 when he's with Quinn, the whole bachelor party thing, they get Ralph Macchio as basically an alternate version of Barney. Hilarious, by the way. But then we get the clown and all that. So they get back to Barney's apartment, and it was, oh no, wait, was it Robin? It was Robin. Okay, so it's season 9. Sorry, season 9. He's already with Robin. But he goes, he does the last, Ralph, he just does the whole, "You're not the," he goes, "You're not the Karate Kid, Ralph Macchio." He's like, "Don't touch me." And then he starts going on the whole hero of the story being Johnny Lawrence, and then you hear him, "You couldn't be more right." And then he starts taking off the makeup, and it's William fucking Zabka. And, in his Cobra Kai gi, and then of course they embrace, they hug each other. It's like, holy shit, it was so cool to see that in 2014. And when the show started in 2005, show ended in 2014, and that happened in 2014 when they did this. So Cobra Kai came around, I think 2019? Yeah, 2019, 5 years later. And nobody's asked the producers this. Did that inspire them to do the show? Was it How I Met Your Mother inspired with that whole line about Johnny Lawrence being the actual hero of the story? Did that inspire them to do Cobra Kai? And that would just be something amazing to see, where if they would acknowledge it. Now, I don't know if legally, if they admit it, then royalties and all that. I don't want that to happen. But that's kind of where my head is at. Like, did it bring back to, it was that moment in 2014 in the show that caused Cobra Kai to happen? And I remember seeing an interview though with Zabka, and Zabka was pitched the show and said he admitted I wanted to do it, but he said he would not do it without Macchio. He goes, you don't get Ralph. He goes, you don't get me. And so I was like, damn, like good ultimatum. Don't get me wrong, great ultimatum. But they obviously got Ralph Macchio, and the rest is history. The show ends with with a funny little jab. So the guys talking at the end of the show where they're in the bar and Daniel and Johnny are talking. The two guys talking about an alternate season 5 and wanting to do this whole thing in the '80s. You hear that quick little conversation. Those two guys, those are the creators and producers of Cobra Kai. Those are the showrunners. So they got to be in their own show. But Daniel and Johnny sit down and they're discussing the future of their fighters and sits there and says, Demetri could benefit from the Cobra Kai training. He goes, yeah, he goes, Devin could benefit from some balance. So they're exchanging students like, hey, have your kid come here and your kid go here. And that partnership is there. They're just, again, see them go from enemies to inseparable best friends. But we get in one more little callback. Actually, no, I skipped. Wow, I skipped over the Miyagi thing. I gotta backtrack. I'm sorry. If you're still watching, thank you so much for listening and watching. But please hear me out. So Miyagi, we get Baxter and Miyagi, and we find out that Miyagi, while he did hurt someone, it was because of the necklace that Daniel's mom ends up giving to Sam. That it's basically there's always more to the story, and it was heartwarming to know that what Mr. Miyagi did wasn't out of malice per se. Like, wasn't he picked this guy? I'm going to beat your ass. He did it for an honorable reason, and so therefore it kind of closed the chapter on the whole. Okay, Miyagi wasn't bad. It was just a misunderstanding that escalated beyond what it should have, and Miyagi rectified it. And the callback I'm going to go to at the end of the show is that we have one more Mr. Miyagi callback, and oh wow, there's another Miyagi callback. I gotta make notes. But goes back to man who catches fly with chopstick can accomplish anything, and so Daniel ends up catching the fly, and he's all beginner luck, but Daniel catches the fly in that. So then Daniel decides to unroll the chopsticks and goes to catch a fly, and then all of a sudden you hear, and Johnny's like, got it. That was perfect. Now I'm going to jump back a little bit to the Miyagi thing. We get one more Miyagi callback, and it's basically Daniel sleeping, and it was about the whole bringing back the tournament thing, and they're fighting the guys in the skeleton costumes. And Mr. Miyagi, we finally get to see what we've always wanted to, which was Miyagi and LaRusso fighting side by side, and they do. And it was so much emotion watching that. To sit there and be like, what the hell? Like, you're punching in the heart too much. But it was just so much to see that. Let me see. I'm actually gonna look it up right now because oh no. Yeah. So I'm gonna try to play this. I'm not gonna hold on. Yeah, they're fighting back to back. I'm watching it right now. But here we go. Oh, he goes, Daniel's son. He's on. It's okay. Oh yeah, this is Daniel's closure on why Miyagi fought in this Taikai tournament, and that he killed someone in the tournament, and it's gut wrenching to see him finally do this. Like, he's confronting Miyagi, how hard he's been fighting, why he left him alone. It's like he's like, we can't win, and oh, last bit of Miyagi wisdom. Here we go. I'm watching right now. Sorry. Answer same place as always, in your heart. Miyagi teach win, lose, no matter. Oh. And I believe that's the moment where Daniel decides that they're going to withdraw. He tells him, Miyagi lesson, he goes, win, lose, no matter. He goes, you don't have to fight. And I'm like, damn, like, Miyagi's still teaching us shit years after he's died. It's like, um, so yeah, it's just, it was just a lot to take in Miyagi. Like I said, every episode from part three punches you in the face. It punches you in the heart. Um, but yeah, as much as I loved you going about Cobra Kai, I think I'm done gushing. Wait, hold on. Am I done going on Miyagi, Kreese and Silver, Tori, them? Yeah, I think I'm okay. I think I'm good. Chosen and Kim, yeah. Okay, so, but that's my take on Cobra Kai. I will definitely, it's the show I'll definitely be rewatching. My son loves Cobra Kai. Um, so it's definitely something we'll rewatch. I'm looking forward to Karate Kid Legends that comes out in the summer. We're honestly only a couple months away from that movie, and it remains to be seen how that's going to play out because they have said it is years after Cobra Kai, and it's still the same universe. It's the Miyagi verse, and so it's that one I would definitely talk about. But again, guys, if you're watching, listening, thank you. Leave a like, follow, subscribe. It means a lot, especially helping the podcast out. I guess I'm gonna keep doing the podcast. Right now, it's only on YouTube. I haven't really uploaded anywhere else. And honestly, my entire first season of podcasts is gone. It's uploaded to YouTube, but I don't have it recorded anywhere. But if you guys made this far, leave your likes, your comments down below. Discuss what you thought of Cobra Kai, War of the Rohirrim, Pokemon Go Unova Tour, anything you want to hear me discuss on the show. By all means, let me know. But again, I really appreciate you tuning in. I hope I will have, like I said, an episode uploaded every month. So about a month from now, I'll upload the next one. So appreciate you guys tuning in. Take it easy. I'll see you guys all in the next video.